Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the DucksNPucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. The show host Mike Walters Law, my co-host Eddie Richard, and we are back with another week of action with the Ducks. They went on the road and, they didn't do so well on the road, but then they came home and they beat the Carolina Hurricanes, which was fantastic on Star Wars night. So we will talk about that, their upcoming schedule. We have plenty of team news to get to, some more trade talk to get to, some jersey / rebranding stuff to talk to, and league news as well. So plenty of stuff to cover on the show. I don't know if it's going to be a 2-hour show like our last one, Eddie, but how you doing since our last show?
I'm doing pretty great. I had a nice, good weekend. Hung out with some buddies, a hockey buddy. I've been hitting the gym pretty hard this week. Just trying to get more, physically inclined. Build up my muscle again. I'm trying to lose I gained 6 pounds, so I'm trying to drop that, and it's helping a lot. Using the products I'm using. Overall, it's been pretty good. I actually got a job offer from this job that I interviewed with. I had a good feeling about them. I really wanted this one, and they officially gave me the letter of the offer on Monday. So now I just gotta wait for my security clearance to come back, which I know that can take a little bit, a few weeks. You know how the military is, but it's gonna be a military contracting job. I'm not gonna say the employer, but it's a good opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm ecstatic that I can't wait to get started with them. And I had a good feeling, and I vibed really right with the 2 interviews I had. So, yeah, it's life's looking pretty good right now. So just gonna. Oh, I'm actually gonna play hockey tomorrow. I haven't played hockey in 3 months, so I'm looking forward to going and jumping in a pickup game and getting my feet back and seeing one more round of this before I just call it quits for good. But yeah, other than that, I'm doing pretty fine. How about you, Mike? How's everything going with you?
It's been a crappy week for me. So first off, I'm happy about the job thing for you. Congrats. That's good. Fantastic. I'm looking forward to you starting that. So I'm happy for you because I know you've been out there kind of hustling, in the last little while. So good on you for that. For me, the last show, we went almost 2 hours and I barely didn't finish it. For a lot of you, you don't even know this, but I got really sick and I've been sick the last week. My voice sounds a little bit off. That's why. Now you know. And on Friday last week, I didn't get out of bed till about 12. And then on these weekend games that the Ducks played, I didn't get out of bed till about 10 and then turned on the games on Saturday and Sunday. So I do feel better. Not 100%, but I don't know, man. It's just been a rough week dealing with being under the weather. But I do feel a little bit better. We're back, thank God. But I had some soup tonight, Eddie, so I do feel better, and I'm ready to go.
Nice. I do want to dedicate this show on my portion into the hockey rink I play at, West Covina, Cal Street Hockey. We lost one of our players, a guy I played against. His name is Brian Jimenez. Wears the same number as myself, number 44. He passed away, so I just want to dedicate everything I say to this show to him, and it just sucks losing someone part of the hockey community, the hockey family, so I just want to throw it out there.
Sorry to hear that, Eddie, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. With that, we'll get going with the show. Go through kind of the same format. We'll talk about the recaps. Talk about a lot of stuff with the team. Maybe not as in depth with the stats. We did a lot of that in the last show because we talked about the quarter season report and whatnot. You can go look at that. A little bit more trade talk. We'll talk about some jersey stuff and some league news as well. So where we left off last time, the Ducks were on a road trip. They played in Nashville. They lost that game. They then went to Dallas. And, there's not really a lot to say about this game. The Ducks lost 5-0 to the Stars. Not a good game at all. Robertson, who has been red hot this season, dropped a hat trick on the Ducks. And they lost this one. I didn't think they played bad in the first period. They seemed okay. They're only down 1-0. But then after that, this game got away from them. You had Stolars that started in net. You had Lundstrom getting hurt. He took a shot off the hand, which we later found out that now he's on the IR. So, man, this was just a rough one in general, Eddie. I don't really have too much to say other than the Ducks just played poorly in this game.
Yeah, and I remember last show I mentioned I thought the Ducks were going to actually take a win against Dallas. I thought Dallas was going to underestimate them, but Robertson had something to say. He's been playing red hot. And even though the Ducks got their ass kicked this game, I was kind of happy for Robinson because I have him on one of my fantasy leagues. So it's just, and this is a league that I'm paying to be in, so it's really a little more competitive. So I'm happy he got the hat trick, got my fantasy points. He had his streak going on for like 18, 19 games, and it finally ended the other night against Buffalo, which Buffalo has been red hot too. Have the game on the background. They're beating Columbus 9-2. Like holy hell! So I have Jeff Skinner and Dylan Cousins too. On my paid fantasy one, so I'm kind of banking in on them. I know it's not a Buffalo podcast, so just giving a little love to the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, they're killing it right now in that game. Tage Thompson with 4 goals in the first period. So Buffalo's, they're doing fine right now against Columbus. But the Ducks had a rough go of it on this game.
It was horrible, and it is. And you know what? We were pumping Stolarz' tires about how he's been playing well. In the last few starts he's been in, it's just been horrible. He's just playing terrible. So it's like, I don't know if we just gave him bad luck or whatnot, but it was a bad game overall. The Ducks just didn't seem to be there at all.
Yeah, the only bright spot, I guess, was that he stopped Jamie Benn on the penalty shot at the end of the game. Was like the only little good nugget there for the Ducks. But yeah, this was a game that they didn't play well. They gave up a couple power play goals. They didn't score on the power play, which has actually been doing better, which we'll talk about in these next couple games. But, a rough game, Eddie.
Well, they're not dead last in the league anymore. They're second to dead last, so that's some improvement.
Hey, one step up is better than being last. We'll take it.
Thank you, Columbus, for being last in the league on the power play.
Yeah, and, with the Ducks, they then, on this trip, they then played your favorite other team, the Minnesota Wild, which... The Ducks, after the Dallas game, you thought, oh, man, they got their butts kicked. They played horrible. But they actually played very, very well against Minnesota. They almost won this game in regulation. They got down early in this one, 1-0, and then they came back, and then they're down 2-1. But they were able to get, a couple goals in the second period. And then, they were ahead 4-3 halfway through the third period. And even till the end of this game. And you thought that the Ducks would win this one, possibly in regulation. They didn't. They even went to overtime. They had a power play in overtime. They couldn't score on that. And they ended up losing in the shootout. They got a point, but a couple things we'll hit on here, Eddie. But what did you think? Some of these goals, too. The first goal went off Max Jones. The second one was by Gibson's pad. They didn't blow the whistle. They knocked it in. There was a lot of stuff going on in this game against the Wild.
Oh, yeah, of course, they had to lose again. It's like, come on, you just can't beat the Wild, the team I hate the most in the National Hockey League. It's just the Ducks is not kind of finding that extra oomph, going that mile, the extra stride to steal these games and win. And the Wild just took advantage of another team. They have some hot players, too, going on with Kaprizov and him. It just, what really pissed me off in this game, it really, set me off, and it made me ashamed to be a Ducks fan for this game, and maybe really dislike a player for this game, was McTavish. You have Greenway taking a liberty and taking a run at Gibson. Gibson has to respond. McTavish is, hugging him like a high schooler hugging their girlfriend, and then Greenway punches Gibson in the face again, and nothing. McTavish, you need to get up and do something. Kick that guy's ass. I don't care if he's a tough customer, you're going to get your ass kicked. Stand up for your goalie. This whole just hugging him, patting him, this little... I don't know what the hell you're doing, but if I'm Gibson, I would have had some words with you. If I was a coach, you would have been scratched or sent down to the A for the lack of coming in your team's aid. That was just a really bad call on him, and it rubbed me the wrong way. It doesn't matter. You're supposed to protect your goalie, whether you agree or not, whether it's going to result in a penalty or not. It doesn't really matter. You're dead last in the league. Losing another game is not going to just screw you guys over. It's like, no, you just have to defend, and it was sickening to see that. And not just McTavish, I'm not just calling him out, but the whole team. Your goalie gets hit, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, someone touches your goalie, that's game on. If Getzlaf was still on this team, I guarantee there would have been something going on with Greenway. Getzlaf would have just answered the call. If he wasn't on the ice, he definitely would have fought him, because that's just absolutely bullshit that no one came in Gibson's defense, and Gibson had to pick that second licking in the face by getting hit by Greenway. It was not a good call at all.
You know what's interesting is I thought about you during this game too, because they talked about Ryan Reeves on the broadcast, and they talked about swagger, and I thought it was interesting because that's, you know, one of the words that you hit on, or one of the aspects that you talk about in the game. And that's the thing with this team, is that there isn't really any swagger on there. And I feel, Greenway's not necessarily a Ryan Reeves type player, but, you know, he goes into Gibson there. Even when he's down, he kind of flips Gibson's face mask or goalie mask, which I mean, and then Gibson obviously returns the favor, which I don't blame him. But there's not a lot of people on the Ducks team with swagger. And, you know, it's not just the Delorier type player. We've seen Carrick mix it up once in a while. Beaulieu mix it up once in a while. But you just don't see those guys that are out there. And I think that is a huge thing, like you talked about, too, with Getzlaf. You know, a lot of people talk about how he's a great passer. You know, he gets all these assists. Captain, all these things that he's done, but a lot of people don't talk about, you know, the other part where he always stands up for his players and gets in the mix. And you're right, that I think that's kind of, that situation is a microcosm for this team in general. There isn't really much swagger on this team, or much of that stand up for each other. You see little spurts of it here and there, but you're right, in that play, if you're not going to do something then and there, I get it. You know, McTavish ties him up, you know, takes him down the ground, lays on him, whatever. But after that, no one really did a whole lot that game against that guy. I'm not saying you got to go fight him necessarily. It's not all about just fighting. But, I mean, someone doesn't go up there and, like, give him a talking to. Someone doesn't check him hard. Things like that. And that'll kind of play a factor into some of these games that are coming up that we're going to talk about too after this, about what the Ducks need to do. But I thought you're right. That was kind of an interesting thing in that situation there, and we didn't see it. And I thought maybe because the Ducks got ahead and they were fine with it, and then they let it go, and then they had to go to the shootout and they lost. But you got to have some of that swagger in there, whatever it is, whether it's like I said, being that leader and going over there talking to the bench, or your team captain talks to the other team captain, or whatever. But when Greenway's down the ice and he flips Gibson's mask like that, it's like, come on, dude. Like, you're just being petty at that point.
Yeah, you know what? This goes to say too, if you don't think a tough guy or someone that knows how to throw their hands around can dictate a game or police, look at who's on the ice for Minnesota, Revo. Maybe his presence out there made these Ducks players that aren't as tough as the rest of the league think twice about trying to take a liberty at Greenway, or trying to drop the gloves and fight him. It's so sad to see this. Like I said, there's no swag on this team. There's no identity whatsoever on this team. And then Gibson gets 4 minutes worth of penalties. Gibson actually had to defend himself, which was stupid. The last penalty was just kind of crazy, like throwing the puck forward. I can't recall the last time, or if I ever saw that penalty being called at all. I think we have to look it up, Mike. This might be the first time in Ducks franchise history that a goalie got called for throwing the puck forward. So with that stat too, with Gibson's penalty minutes, he's number 2 in the league in goalies in penalty minutes with 8, and Binnington's number 1 with 10.
Huh, nice. And we'll talk about Binnington later in the show. We got some stuff to talk about that boy, but I'll save that. But yeah, you're right. It was weird in the overtime. The Ducks had a power play. It got wiped away at the very, very end. It wasn't really a big deal. There was only a couple seconds left. But Gibson gloved the puck and threw it forward. And apparently the rule is NHL Rule 67 is the one that deals with that. And apparently you can't throw the puck forward to one of your players and advance the puck. You can throw it to the side. If maybe you throw it forward and a defending player gets it or something, it's fine. But it's a rule that's rarely called. We had ref Dave Jackson was on Twitter talking about this, and he said that I think in his career he'd only called it like once. So very interesting, a weird play. It didn't really affect the outcome of the game, but something that everybody was talking about. Everybody was like, "What? You can't?" So I guess the goalie, if you glove the puck, you can't throw it forward to another teammate. So Rule 67, look it up. But
I wonder if it was just frustration off Gibson's part. Like, he just said, F it. Like, you know what, whatever, I don't care. I'm sure Gibson, these goalies know the rules. Maybe it's just one of those frustration things. It's like he really didn't have his team sticking up for him. He's agitated because Greenway took those runs and liberties at him. And he just, at the overtime, just kind of like, oh, screw it, F it, throwing the puck over. And that's his like way of just being frustrated.
Yeah, it could have been. And, he might have just tossed it forward, especially because it was the very end, or maybe a last-minute chance to try and go score or whatnot. But, yeah, so it's just weird. I mean, so now look up that rule that's applied in there. So very, very interesting. But the thing I did like was the shootout. I did like Zegras, his move. They actually compared it to Patrick Kane's shootout move. Not quite the same, but similar. He did a great move. The Ducks ended up losing, of course. The Wild got a couple goals. But I like what he did on there. I don't know if a lot of people watch this play, though. They watch Zegras and his stick moves and the way that he goes back and forth. But if you really pay attention to the video and watch him, he lifts up his right skate a couple times, and I think part of that is that deception move that he adds in there that makes the goalie think that maybe he's going to shoot or go forehand, backhand, forehand, whatever. It's a little thing that I picked up on during that. I don't know if you saw it, Eddie, but it's something I've seen him do now, where he tends to pick up the toe part of the blade, and maybe it throws off goalies just enough so he gets that edge to score.
Oh, that was a beautiful goal. That was the highlight of the game for me. That made me just kind of forget the fact that I was pissed off about them not protecting their goalie. That was probably one of the best goals I've seen Zegras score. It was just absolutely a thing of beauty, amazing. I almost said something that's probably not, I shouldn't be saying on the show, but it was cool. It turned me on. That Will Ferrell movie, Anchorman. Yeah, just think of that one scene when he's talking to Christina Applegate. That's what I got when I saw that goal. It was just a thing of beauty. It was just wow. This kid is just wow.
And you came up with a saying too. I'm not going to ruin it. I'll let you say it. I posted it on social media. But what did you come up with, Eddie, when you saw this goal? What was your phrase that we may turn into a T-shirt?
Well, we could both say it. I'll say the first part, you say it second. So here it is. Now you see it.
Now you don't.
Boom. Shake and bake, baby.
Yeah, when you said that was great. And I was cracking up, posted that on social media, and people were laughing. But, yeah, I mean, and now you see it, now you don't. It's fantastic. Fantastic. And he's done that a few times in the shootout. So that was the good part of it. I was glad they got a point. I was bummed. I thought they were going to win a regulation. The power play did come alive too in this one. Like we said, it's picked up. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the team section. But they're 2 for 3 on the power play. They ended up losing this one, and the shootout got a point. And then they had this crazy weekend schedule where they played Winnipeg on Saturday at 11 o'clock, and then they played. They played Winnipeg on Sunday at 12 o'clock after this game. Just crazy schedule that they had with these early games on Saturday and Sunday. I don't know why the scheduling was the way it was, but the Ducks got a little screwed on this because they went with Stolarz back in net in the game, but they had to go with the 11-7 lineup. You had Grant got hurt in that Minnesota game, so he couldn't play, and they just didn't have enough guys, and it was a short time, early start on Sunday, just like on Saturday, and it was surprising. The Ducks actually played well in this game. They actually were ahead 2-0 halfway through this game. You had Silverberg getting a goal out of nowhere. Leeson, who's been playing well with McTavish and Jones, they scored, and it looked fine. And then they gave up 2 goals in the second, into the second period. It was 2-2. It was like that till late in the third, and then they gave up a bunch of goals at the end, and just frustrating. This one I thought, man, the Ducks played a great start to this game. Even going with the 7-11 lineup, being shorthanded, Stolarz in net. But I don't know, maybe the back-to-back early starts with Minnesota, Winnipeg, and the Minnesota going late to shootout. I don't know. I don't want to make excuses, but I really thought they had control of this game, and then they just gave it away, Eddie, in the second half.
they ran out of gas and they let them score 5 unanswered goals, and they just didn't come back from it. And after that, I just like you mentioned too, I thought the Ducks had this. They came out firing a 2-goal lead, and we're like, all right, cool. It's a good start of the game, and something's gonna happen. We're gonna get this, but nope. Winnipeg came back, and they didn't need Connor Kyle to score this time. Or what's his name again? I totally forgot the guy's name.
Yeah, Kyle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking of that movie too. Yeah, it's just Ducks ran out of gas. They ran out of steam, and they just let the Winnipeg Jets steal another 2 points from them.
Yeah, it was just frustrating. I really thought that they had, I don't know. It started out great and it ended poorly. So it was just a weird bit of scheduling. Like I said, playing Minnesota on Saturday at 11, then playing Winnipeg at Sunday at 12. Just very, very weird. I rolled up.
That travel.
Yeah, I mean, the travel going from Minnesota to Winnipeg, being shorthanded players. By the way, they're still without Klingberg, too, through all this as well. So, you didn't have them. And you had Lundstrom was out, too, because Lundstrom had gotten hurt. He took a shot off of his hand in the game against Dallas. So they're out with, no Lundstrom. Then Grant got hurt in the Minnesota game. So, you're just short forwards in this. And a quick turnaround, quick early start. It's just tough for them. I think you're right. I think they ran out of gas, and then they returned home and got a win. The game against Carolina, Star Wars night. I posted all the GIFs during that game on Twitter. You had Comtois coming back. He was out too for a while. I don't know why they sent Regenda down to San Diego. Wasn't happy with that. Again, the Ducks going with the 11-7 lineup. And it was a wild game, but the Ducks ended up winning this one. They went ahead by a goal, and then every time that happened, Carolina came back, and they ended up going back and forth to overtime, and then Strome won it in overtime. But what a good win for the Ducks in this stretch of games, Eddie, especially against Carolina, who's, a pretty good team.
Yeah, and this seemed like one of the most even games the Ducks played against an opponent all season. The game was pretty even from start to finish. Stat-wise, too, I think it was an overall a decent game played. I had a good feeling once they went to overtime, they might secure that extra point because they're an overtime team this season. Strome's goal was pretty nice. You can tell he wanted to just end it right there. I think everyone, including everyone in attendance at that game at Honda Center, thought he was going to pass the puck. I thought he was going to pass the puck, but the force was definitely on his stick, and he just fired a beautiful shot, beat the goalie, and got that 2 points. And glad they got a win in front of Honda Center too, especially on Star Wars night. I think the Ducks were 2-2 on promotional nights too, keeping weird stats like that.
Yeah, and it was good to see Comtois come back too. He got in the lineup and he scored right away, so that was good to see that with him. And yeah, you're right. In the overtime with Strome and Vetrano, I thought for sure he was going to pass it, but he didn't. He took the shot and they won. So good on them. And yeah, the Ducks have been almost near perfect in 3-on-3 overtime. They've won almost all the games this season. So good win for the Ducks against a quality team. They really played well too defensively in the third period. Carolina did not get a shot on goal until there was 5 minutes left in the game in the third period. It was pretty crazy the way that they shut them down, in that part of the game. So. The Ducks look good overall. The second period a little bit shaky. They were outshot 2-1 in there, but they were able to hang in there. Had the lead the whole game and prevailed and got 2 points. So with that, the Ducks still have another game against the Sharks at home on Friday. It'll be kind of interesting. They did pick up Megna's brother, which we'll go into more detail on that, but you may see them battle it out against each other coming up on that game on Friday, and then they go on the road again. I feel like the Ducks have been on the road like forever so far in the beginning of the season, but they're going to go on the road again, play Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, and LA before coming home for Christmas, and New Year's. But a big trip coming up here. Kind of going back to the thing that you talked about, Eddie, too, about swagger. The Ducks will go on the road trip and play Ottawa first, and I'm calling this the revenge game because the Ducks lost 5-1 on Black Friday. Stutzel with that play where it only got 2-minute penalty. I want the Ducks to beat the Sharks on Friday, of course. and that'll be a battle. But they're going on this road trip. They're going to play Ottawa. It'll be only the second time of the season. I mean, yeah, they're going to play some other teams on there, but I really want them to beat Ottawa on this road trip. It's the first game of back-to-backs. Toronto, who's been red hot on the next night, may not favor so well, but in this 5-game road trip, if there's a game I really want them to win, I want them to beat the Senators, and I want to beat them bad.
Oh yeah, definitely a whole revenge game. Keys to this game: the Ducks need to stay the hell out of the penalty the box, because the Senators are ranked 7 overall on the power play, so they can get it done with the special teams. If you give them the extra opportunity, they're gonna make you pay for it. Also, they rank 4th amongst face-off percentage, so you have to figure out how to kind of adjust your strategy in the face-off circle, tie them up more, something different, or just make a mistake. It's going to be a game that Ducks, hopefully they have that blood in their mouth. They want revenge. Stutzel will probably, I don't know, slam his stick against Gibson's face. No one's going to do anything, and the league won't do anything because who knows what's going to happen. Whatever. But yeah, I hope the Ducks can capitalize on that. Yes, they started off as a good team and way better than they did last season and stuff. And the pieces that they have and the players that they have are making them a better team. But this is a team the Ducks can potentially beat. And hopefully, like you said, they have that mentality of that revenge game and that embarrassment you did on Black Friday.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm hoping that they come out firing all cylinders against Ottawa. Then they'll play Toronto the next day, which it's going to be tough. Toronto, they did beat them earlier in the season, but Toronto is gone 7-0-3 in their last 10. They're on fire right now. That's going to be a tough game, especially being on back-to-back. And then they will play Montreal, Edmonton, and LA, teams that they have not played yet. Kind of crazy. We're in December, and the Ducks have not played the Kings yet. So they'll finish off, like I said, against Montreal, and then a couple games in the division against Edmonton and LA. Teams that are ahead of the Ducks, but I mean everybody's ahead of the Ducks, so that doesn't mean a whole lot. So they're teams that are playing better, a little bit over 500, but Montreal, Edmonton, LA, definitely teams that winnable. The Ducks can win a couple of these games. All these teams are playing 500 or just slightly above 500, but they're not knocking it out of the park. So I would expect hopefully Ducks beat Ottawa, maybe they lose Toronto, and then hopefully they can pick up some points against these 3 teams, Eddie.
Yeah, Toronto. I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna get smoked against Toronto. Toronto's really hot. Marner's a 20 game consecutive point streak. He's been on fire. Murray, since he came back, he's just been playing lights out. He's regaining the form that he had with the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's gonna be hard. Montreal's another team too. They're getting production from a lot of their players. Edmonton, I really hope they beat. Edmonton and LA, really hope they beat. And they could. LA's having some struggles. They just sent their goalie of the future, Cal Peterson, down to the AHL. He's on his first year of his new contract. No one's going to pick him up just the way he's been playing. So hopefully they capitalize on the Kings. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that the Ducks only play the Kings 3 times this season. But it's not really surprising. There's not really big rivalry going on with the Ducks and Kings game. The last one I went to last season, there wasn't anything. It was just a normal game. There wasn't any hatred or bad blood between this team like it was in the past. So the league's not really, I guess, they're not forcing the league to make them schedule these games to get people involved. So it just, hopefully we can get some points. I just want them to beat Edmonton and LA. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Any Pacific Division, team. So they got the Sharks coming up at home, and then Edmonton and LA on the road. So with that, we'll move on to the next segment. Real quick, some of our sponsors. Don't forget we have ZStackLife.com for all your multivitamin needs. Is a really good vitamin with vitamin C, D, zinc, and quercetin in it, or NAC. They have a couple different versions, so check them out. ZStackLife.com. You can enter my name, Mike, for a discount. And then one that Eddie is a big fan of is BuckedUp.com. You can use the code DucksNPucks93 for a discount. And I believe, Eddie, you're trying another product of theirs that you want to talk about real quick before we go to the next segment.
Yeah, I'm really keen on the Hardcore Heat. It's a thermogenic fat burner. It's a dietary supplement. It gives you some energy. I use it twice a day. I use it in the morning with my vitamins just to get me that pick me up, because I'm not a morning person and it struggles for me. I have insomnia too, so I don't really sleep that well at night. So waking up 8, 9 in the morning, it's a struggle for me. But I use that and it gives me that little lift. Using the Deer Antler Velvet Extract Spray. You spray it under your tongue, 6 sprays. It's supposed to help you with the strength and increase your endurance strength, and just to help you with muscle recovery. It does help a lot, and I noticed the difference. My workouts are increased more, my cardio is increased, and then like I lift sometimes more than I should, and I push that limit sometimes. That's just me. And usually I'd be a lot more sore, but it helps with the soreness and stuff like that. So I suggest both those products. And we get a discount too, DucksNPucks 93. You get 20% off and free shipping. So try it out if you're in a journey to weight loss, muscle gain, or just want to just work out and have a healthier life. I suggest trying these products out.
Yeah, so that's buckedup.com, DucksNPucks 93 for the discount there, and then zstacklife.com, Mike for the discount. So check those out. All right, so kind of checking in with the Ducks. We did a deep dive on the last show. We're not going to go too crazy on this show about what's been going on with the team, but obviously we're going to talk about some of the stuff happening and some of the good stuff. I don't want to always be negative with this team, but the Ducks power play has looked better as of late. They were 5 of 15 in these last series of games, almost 6 of 15. They had one that they had scored right after the power play expired. And I think the makeup's been better. They've got Cam Fowler at the point. You've got Zegras on the left flank. You've got McTavish on the goal line, and then Henrique and Terry down low as well. And they've been doing very, very well. My only critique would be to keep them out there as much as possible. Keep that first power play unit out there. But they've been doing a lot better, clicking very well. Terry is leading the way with the Ducks in points. He's got 27 points, 11 goals. Zegras has got 22 points with 9 goals. And then you have Henrique and Strome both with 14 points, 8 and 7 goals. So you've got some good stuff going there, Eddie. Offensively, you've got some of the guys scoring and contributing. Obviously, the defense, we beat that to the drum. But at least when you're watching this team, you got to be excited to see how these guys are doing. They've been scoring goals. The power play has now been a legitimate threat. It's not been that joke where we said, "Oh, let's give it back." They're actually scoring and being dangerous and having chances. So, even though Ducks have only won one in their last series of games, they've been competitive in a lot of these games, except for the Dallas one, unfortunately. But all the other ones, they've been pretty tight. And at least you're seeing some plays and you're seeing some things happen, and they are scoring goals, Eddie.
Yeah, Terry, he's just been lights out. Zegras he's been playing pretty well, but for a potential franchise player, I want him to play a little better. If that I know he's up there in points. He's doing well for his sophomore season. I just think he could play better, and I want him to reach that ceiling and that potential. Henrique too. It just. If I'm a contending team and I need help at the face-off circle, I would definitely have my eye on him and try to retain his services because he's been playing pretty well since he came back after he had his child. So maybe that extra motivation is firing him up because he's been playing pretty well. I remember that one game when we first watched him. I told you he was buzzing. He's just buzzing around. Terry and Zegras, their contracts are coming up. Terry's gonna get. I think both of them are gonna get paid. But if Terry continues this way he's playing, he's just gonna get banked. Wow.
Yeah, the other thing with Terry too is we talk about him scoring goals and being on the power play and all that, but he does a lot of good things. If you looked in this last game against Carolina, he was actually out there on the penalty kill. He's being used all over the ice. He's also blocking shots. He draws penalties. He creates turnovers. This guy does pretty much everything you ask and then some. So I'm with you, Eddie. And we'll talk about some trade stuff and some cap stuff coming up towards the end of the show. But it's definitely got to factor in. You got to give high praise to Troy Terry. This guy, and I know that Verbeek. I forgot to mention this on the show last time. He did talk about the state of Anaheim. He mentioned that making the captains on the back burner, and it's probably not going to be the off season and whatever. And okay, I get it. He's going to do what he's going to do. But Terry is making the case for me, Eddie, that if the Ducks don't go with the senior person, that's who I go with. This guy has just been doing everything, Eddie.
He's the real ducking deal. He came in the scene last season, and I was worried, and a lot of people were worried. But then I mentioned in the first show, no, I think he's not gonna stop. He's gonna keep going. He's gonna write this, and he's becoming a superstar. It's good to see it, and the way he's just leading on the ice, and the comments by Akins when I wrote that article about him being more vocal and stepping up in the leadership role, I think he's a good candidate of being captain. I still have my eye on Henrique, but Terry's right there, and he's just proving his case each and every game by leading on and off the ice. It's just really good to see. I'm glad we have him. Seems like he has a good head on his shoulders too, really mature for his age, and he loves hockey and he puts in the work, and obviously it's paying dividends the last couple seasons, and I think he's just going to trend upward from here on out.
Yeah, I'm with you. We're lucky to have Terry, and I'm curious to see, what kind of deal he gets at the end of the season, which I'll hold my comments on that till later in the show. But the other part of this is the Ducks have been fighting through injuries as well. Kind of talked about that in some of the games. You've had Klingberg has been out. Actually was on the IR. He was at practice the morning of that game against Carolina. He didn't get back in there. It looks like he's going to be back soon. You have Lundstrom now, who fractured a finger. He is going to be out 6 weeks. That is horrible. I hope he gets better. The good news is Comtois did come back off the IR and he scored. And now you have Grant that's questionable. So looking at the lineup, we have a lot of fan questions we'll get to here in this part right now. But, it's interesting. You look at this. They sent Regenda back down. The Ducks have been playing 11-7. Kind of a shortage of players. We've talked about trades, which we'll talk a little bit more in a minute. But the Ducks go out and they do a waiver pickup. And they pick up Jason Megna, the brother of Jacob that played on the team. Don't get them confused, because I know a lot of us thought that they brought back the same Megna. Nope, it's a different one. But what did you think, Eddie? I was kind of surprised. I mean, he's been with Colorado recently. Looks like just a depth move to me, but I don't know. I thought maybe the Ducks, I don't like them sending Regenda down. I thought maybe they bring somebody up from the goals, but they picked this guy up. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'm just kind of confused.
I'm confused too. I don't understand the reasoning of picking up a guy that's played 14 games with the Avalanche's big club, 0 points, only 4 shots on goal. Reading some of the comments from the Avalanche fans, one fan mentioned that fourth line center is supposed to bring energy, provide physicality, get into those dirty areas, everything that he does not bring to their club. So I don't understand what's the reasoning. Maybe to replace Lundstrom. I don't know. It doesn't seem it's going to help the Ducks one bit. He's not going to be used for trade bait whatsoever. I don't know if maybe Murray and the Beaker were hanging out, had a few drinks, and they just hit the little yes on the waiver thing. I don't know. It just doesn't. He's a great AHL player. He was a captain of the Colorado Eagles over there. He's been great at that, but what's the point of it? That makes 0 sense. And if you want to send him down to San Diego, he has to go through waivers again. And you know what's more surprising? Colorado waiving a player when they're dealing with a lot of injuries. They're dealing with McKinnon, Manson's out for another month. Rodriguez is out. Niskanen, Lekkinen, McDermott, Bowers, Byram, Landy, Helm. They're down to 5 defensemen. They had to call someone up on emergency loan. And then I tweeted out on my personal page, their roster right now, Andrew Cogliano is on their second line right now. So it's like they have another rookie on their top line. Their top line only consists of, and their only player that's actual a top 6 player is Mikko Rantanen. He's manning the first line center. He doesn't play center. So it's just weird, but if this team is that desperate for players and they're that injury ridden and they waive a guy to send him back down to their AHL affiliate, the Colorado Eagles, why pick him up? He's been waived 5 times in his career. I believe I read on Mile High the article, and no one picked him up in those times. It's weird. Some fun facts about him too. His father played defensive back for the Dolphins and the Saints in the NFL. He's also married to Jim Craig's daughter Taylor. Jim Craig was a 1980s goalie that helped us win the gold in 1980. So that's kind of little interesting facts from him. The Ducks have him listed as number 7 too on their roster. So Cogliano's number 7's gone.
Yeah, I don't know. Man, I'm just laughing because the whole thing about Murray and Verbeek taking a shot or a drink or whatever on this waiver pickup.
Well, it makes maybe Verbeek smokes a lot of pot and he made I don't know. I don't smoke pot, so maybe it screwed up his mind for that day or your judgment. But This waiver pickup makes absolutely zero sense unless, hear me out, unless this is speculation. All those trades back in the day when it says future considerations, no, it still doesn't make sense. I don't even know why would they pick them up, because Colorado's not having some cap issues right now. They have some money because a lot of their players are on long-term injured reserve, so they have that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is the kind of thing, and no disrespect to him at all. It's like people always say, oh, zero risk, some reward. Yes, there's no risk on this, but there's no reward that's going to benefit the Ducks from this. So we'll go from there, and maybe their idea thing is try to waive him and send him to San Diego, and they can help bolster the San Diego's lineup, and he can produce and bring leadership too as well to San Diego. But it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and I've been sick this last week, so when I saw that on there, I'm like, am I like delusional right now? Am I on a lot of meds? I was like, what is going on here with this move? I was like, okay. But it brought up some other questions that some of you have asked us and people out there through on social media. A lot of people were talking about, well, what about Grimaldi, right? Yeho, it's Chris on Instagram asked, why don't they call him up or sign him, basically, right? Grimaldi's still on an AHL contract. Well, it's an interesting situation with him. Part of the problem is if Grimaldi signs an NHL contract, then he has to go through waivers. So that's an issue there. I don't know if the Ducks are worried he's going to get picked up or not, but that's something to consider. So maybe that's why they put in this waiver claim. They didn't pull up Grimaldi. I don't know, but you've got other guys down there too as well that they could have brought up. Maybe Godin, they had him, with the team for a little bit. They didn't go that route. I don't know. Another one that was interesting, we had B Lowry 17. He asked about Chase DeLeo. Well, Chase DeLeo's been hurt. If you didn't know that, he had 2 goals in a game with San Diego, but then he's been out. So he's not available to call up. So I don't know. Maybe they just thought, hey, we'll just put in for this guy and add him into the mix. I don't really know. But that's the only move that the Ducks did recently. So that's like the big signing lately. But, we'll get to some trade stuff in a little bit. But, it ties into the lineup. So, we're looking at that lineup. We talked a little bit about it on the last show. And we had Tim Coffin on Facebook asked, hey, if you guys are in full control of the lineup, and he said for a game, what would you put together for the lines and whatnot? Well, I mean, part of this is the injuries too. This has been the issue with the Ducks, but and also we had hey, it's Chris. He also asked too, what about separating Terry and Zegras? All right, that's the last thing I would do is separate Terry and Zegras. Those two have been scoring the most points and playing well. I'd keep them together. Put them with Henrique on the top line. Let them do their thing. I also like Jones, McTavish, and Leeson together. They've got some chemistry going on there. They've gotten some points and whatnot, so they've been doing well. They've kept Vetrano and Strome together, which I like and I dislike, and I've talked about that before. I like it offensively. I don't like it defensively. But if they're going to do that, keep them together, but bring Regenda back up and throw him in the mix with them, and then there's kind of your top 9. That I'm looking at right now. I mean, go with that. Another one obviously you can throw in the mix, and there's Comtois as well with Vetrano and Strome. Maybe mix that up, or you break up Vetrano and Strome on other lines. But that's kind of my top 9. The last line is kind of a mixed bag. You got Grant, who's not been doing well. Carrick's always been down there in the bottom 6, and then Silverberg. He actually got a goal in this last couple games, but another one that hasn't been doing well. But that's kind of what I look like. That's what the lineup would look like to me, Eddie. I would try and build out your top 9 as best as you can, and that's what I would do. The only exception, I know some people talked about McTavish, was Zegras and Terry. The TMZ line, as some people talk about. I'm okay with that too, but then the issue is who's going to play center? Is it Zegras or McTavish? If you're going to keep Zegras in there, now you're putting McTavish out of his natural spot at wing. So that's a little wrinkle in the lineup maybe to play with, but other than that, that's kind of what I would go with in terms of the forwards. What do you think, Eddie?
I'm in agreement with you. I'll take that. I mean, Silverberg, I don't think he's been playing well at all. I would scratch him some games, and I'd try to facilitate a trade. it's not working out, and I think it's not fair for him to be in this lineup with the Ducks, and it's not fair for him either. I think a change in scenery is going to help him find his game and get back to his scoring ways. I know Strome can play the wing. I believe it's right wing he can play. I wouldn't be opposed to moving Strome to the right wing and bringing McTavish up to the second line centering Victrano and Strome. I want McTavish to get more experience, more minutes, and let him develop too. He's a special player. Even though I was hard on him against that Minnesota game, I still love him, and I still think that he's one of the futures of this franchise, and he can be a superstar player. So I want to see him be put in more situations, get more minutes. As of right now, though, the Jones, McTavish, and Leeson line has been playing great, so just leave them together. But in the future, I want to see him just kind of have that more opportunity. I think closer to the trade deadline, after the trade deadline, this roster is going to change, and I think we're not going to have the same roster we have. I just have a feeling, and I don't think Henrique will be part of the Ducks going forward after the trade deadline. I think there's going to be a lot of teams are going to want his services, especially the way he's been playing, especially contending teams that can use him for a big playoff push. And I think trade deadline, they're going to be offers coming in. Ducks will probably retain some salary or something like that, but I think he's gonna get some offers, and Verbeek might pull the trigger to help bolster this team and get the rebuild fast, kind of a fast track on this rebuild. So I think McTavish will get some more playing time come that time. But yeah, as far as this roster, there's a thing, not much really you can do. You can switch the lines all you want. This team is. Like I said, like you mentioned too, Mike, there's no swagger on this team, and there's no identity. And unless you figure that out, it's not going to happen. Obviously, this season and what we saw, we have a good enough sample size to say that we're going to be a bottom feeder team. We're going to be a seller at a deadline. It's not going to be like the St. Louis Blues. We're not going to have a surge of energy come January and squeak into the playoffs, win the Stanley Cup. If I really thought that, I'd go to Vegas and bet that $100 on the 30,000 to 1 odds on the Ducks winning the Pacific or winning anything. It's just not going to happen. It's a rebuild, and I'm fine with it. I'm fine potentially getting a first overall pick that can accelerate this rebuild. I keep saying it. There's a lot of great players in this draft, and I'm looking forward to Thomas's article come draft time when he breaks down all the rookies and draft picks that are coming up. He does a really good job, so I'm looking forward to reading his articles and seeing his predictions on it. But regardless, we're going to get a hell of a player. We're definitely going to get a top 5, if not a top 3, but I'm shooting and hoping for the first in franchise history, that first overall pick.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. Thomas does a great job. He writes a lot of articles, especially summertime. That guy's like a machine. I've hit him up. I'm like, what do you do, dude? Like, you just like crank out articles like that guy is just fantastic. So
he's probably using bucked up pre-workout. He's triple dosing it. Just starts typing away.
Yeah, Thomas, and I know he listens to the show, and I tell him this. He does a fantastic job. He also does the bi-weekly reports on the goals as well. So he writes a lot of content. I mean he's fantastic. I love all the stuff that he does for us and whatnot. But yeah, I mean you're right. This lineup, talked about the forwards and whatnot there. You did mention a little wrinkle in there, McTavish with Vetrano, Strome. That's something else to look at. Defensively, I don't think there's a whole lot that this team can really do at this point. We did touch on it on the last show. Fowler and Kulikov have been working out well. Their numbers look good. If Klingberg is healthy and plays, it looks like the best pairing he's had has been with Benoit. If he's not in there, I do like Vakanainen with Benoit. And then I like White and Strand. Of course, they sent Strand back down, but White and Strand are ones that I like in the third pairing. And for me, I've not been big on Shattenkirk. Shattenkirk's another guy that I think should be scratched here and there. He has not played well, for this team. Beaulieu's another one that's been kind of up and down as well, but those are all the guys that kind of make up the bottom line, or the third pairing for the Ducks defense. But that's what I'm looking at. And I'll hold my comments because I want to talk about improving the defense in the trade segment. There's some stuff that's come up recently that may help this team. But, and I'll mention it now, and you and I have already talked about it. Klingberg's pretty much gone at the trade deadline. I mean, unless he comes back and is just like tears it up, which I really don't see it doing. Unfortunately, he's not been the player that we expected. He's been kind of okay on the power play, but, the power play is doing good and he's not been in there. it's been Fowler at the point that's really been, the quarterback there. And now that McTavish is in there getting more time on that first unit, they've been working out well. So on the defense, and like I said, I'll hold some of my comments. I want them to bring in other people. But barring that, I think the only thing really is you trade Klingberg and maybe even trade Shattenkirk too. I know his contract isn't the best, but his contract's coming up too. Maybe you trade both those guys, Eddie. I mean, but the defense definitely needs a shakeup, and of course the missing Drysdale, who's been out, that doesn't help. But I would experiment more honestly with White and Strand and throw them in there and see how they do.
Yeah, Klingberg's gone for sure. It doesn't matter. He comes back and tears it up. It just he was brought in just kind of as an early rental so we can go ahead and trade him and get some assets and stuff like that, which was a really smart move and good move. They gave him that contract he was looking for, that 1-year deal. It's gonna pay dividends to come trade deadline. And yeah, people are so focused on, oh well, he's playing bad, he's not gonna be worth anything. You have to look at it. The system's not working for him, but other team system might. They know his potential. He still has a lot of hockey to give. He's an offensive defenseman that can really work the power play. The Duck system isn't working for him. It doesn't mean it's not going to work for a contending team that really wants that. Put him on the second power play unit and see how he does. He's still valuable and he can still fetch a huge return. So don't get too caught up on the stats and how he's playing with the Ducks, because we've seen numerous times at trade deadline how crazy it gets and how players that are underperforming on certain teams get traded to another team and all of a sudden they have a surge of excellence and they're just playing lights out. So just don't get too caught up on that. Shattenkirk too would be an interesting choice to get traded away, and I think he will. He's in the last deal of his contract. Duck heat up some salary. It's not going to be too bad for a team. Another offensive-minded defenseman that can fetch a decent return. Obviously not as good as Klingberg's, but whatever assets we can get for players that aren't going to come back, then why not? It's going to help this team come the draft, or whatever players that we can get that can help us in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I'll hold my comments. We'll talk about some trade stuff and more detail. Got a couple of fan questions real quick before we go to the trade segment. The Mighty Jerseys asked us, how do we feel about the lack of regulation wins? The Ducks have only got one regulation win. He asked, well, is it okay we get 2 points? Honestly, for me, it's not really a big deal to me. The way that this team's playing, we talk about reorganizing the lineup here. As we got that fan question in there, and optimizing the lineup, which I'm not, some of this I've not been happy with. Some's been good, some's not been good. Like we said, Terry and Zegers together, good. Power play, good. Having Regenda not in there, not good. And mixing some things up. So to me, I don't care this season about wins or losses. When I watch the games in terms of getting the 2 points or not. Yes, I want them to win. I don't want them to lose. I'm not a fan of the tank. I don't go for the tank thing. Like, I'm not like, oh yeah, let's tank. And I've got friends that hit me up all the time about, yeah, let's just lose. Get that first pick. We have like the highest chance to get Bedard and yada. I'm all with you on that. I'm not against that. Don't get me wrong. But I still want them to be competitive. I still want them to play hard. So if they win in overtime, they win in a shootout, it doesn't really matter to me how they win. I want them to be competitive. No, they don't have to win every night because we know they're not going to be a contending team and whatnot. I'm okay with them being towards the bottom and getting a high draft pick. But you still got to play the games, Eddie.
Yeah, I want them to improve stat-wise. That's how I keep saying, I keep harping. Statistically, just this team has not have showed up to the rink at all. That's one thing I'm concerned about. With me, it's like, yeah, I don't want this team to intentionally throw games, but if they're just tanking and they're going to be at the bottom and lose the games, I don't care about the 2 points at all. I mean, this season already is a lost cause to me. Yes, I do want them to win when I'm watching the games. I still want them to be, like you said, competitive. I still want to see a good game. If they play their asses off and they just drop the game, but I see like how they're playing and they have that up and they're working the power play, getting some shots on goal. The lines are rolling. They have the chemistry. That's all fine with me. But just unless I just don't want the Ducks trying to make significant changes right now to try to get a few more wins to get them up there and getting a 12th overall pick. It just doesn't make sense to me at all. Just let it ride. I know we have a fan question about the coach, and I'll let you go and when that time comes, and I'll say something about that. But I'm fine with the Ducks being in the position they are right now. I'm fine with them losing a few more games and solidifying just a bottom 3 spot in the league, because it just come draft time, it's going to help. And obviously, we're in a really big hole, and this is probably I want to say this is the second worst season I've ever seen the Ducks play. I just with no identity, no swagger, and some games it seems like there's no heart. But it's not going to last forever. Next season, I expect the Ducks to be a little bit more competitive. I expect to be Ducks more serious. We're going to have Terry and Zegras another year up there for them and their development. We have McTavish. We have a lot of players that are the AHL, and a lot of players that are playing in different various leagues that are going to come up and help the Ducks be more competitive. So we have hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We're not just putting our heads down and just throwing, like what Murray said before, throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks. It's not going to be like that with the Ducks. This is not going to be a forever thing. The Ducks are going to be competitive again. I'm looking forward to that time.
Yeah, and you alluded to that next fan question, which I was going to actually bring up anyways. Rollerhead_99 on Instagram asked about, why Dallas hasn't been replaced yet. And it goes into the stuff that you've been talking about, Eddie, with this team right now. You can pull Dallas Eakins out. We've talked about this on the show a bunch of times before, and you could put in an assistant coach. But, what is that going to really accomplish? It's not really going to do anything. Now, if Verbeek has a plan, he says, hey, this guy is my coach. And I'm talking about somebody else out there. And hey, this is going to be the guy, and this is the one that's going to turn around and do all this stuff, and he's available now, and he's going to be a long-term guy. Okay, I could see him maybe going and getting that guy, but I don't think he has that guy right now. So I think he's sitting it out right now and just waiting it. Just like with the whole captain thing. He's not picking a captain. I think he's just going through this whole year and seeing how the team meshes and how it goes through at the end of the year. And I really think that that's what he's going to do. I don't see him, unless something crazy happens with Dallas and the team loses a bazillion games, which, they haven't. Obviously, they're not playing well, and they're losing games, but they've been competitive in some games, and then they win some here and there. So I think he stays in there, and I just don't see them doing that. I think the biggest thing, and we'll go into it in just a second here, but I think if anything happens, it's going to be some kind of trade, stuff that's going to happen at the deadline, maybe right before it. But as far as the team as it is right now, other than trying to do stuff with the lineup and make it better, yes, I'm frustrated. I don't like some of the decisions he makes with the lineup. I don't think he does the best things for the lineup, but I just don't see Verbeek pulling the plug right now on him. That's it. It's not. I don't know. I go both ways on this all the time. But my whole thing is that if you pull him, you got to have some kind of plan. Like, what are you gonna do? Who's gonna come in there? If you just pull him and put an assistant, to me, I think that's in some ways worse, because it's just chaos. Then you have one of them take over, and the team's like, oh shit, now what? So unless there's some guy that he really thinks is the guy that's gonna be like the future coach, I just don't see any changes behind the bench, at least not to the offseason, Eddie.
So what's the point of them pulling the coach right now? And I don't see a point in it. He's been proven to be a player's coach and help these young players develop, and they've been developing well under his leadership. Obviously, I think Verbeek's plan is he wants to wait to the offseason. He wants to reconstruct his team, and he wants help with his new coaching staff that he's going to bring in. I don't think Eakins is going to be the coach come next season. If he does, then Verbeek's out of his mind, and something needs to happen, or they need to. I have no idea. It's not going to work. But what's the point of bringing in a coach right now that's not really going to affect the outcome? Bringing in a coach for failure, throwing a coach into lava and expect him to turn it into stairs and walk out. It's not going to happen. This team, the way they've been playing, it's not going to do any different. Bringing another coach just to let him go at the end of the season, an interim coach to fire him and bring someone else. We don't know who's going to get fired this season. What good coaches, what coaches that can probably improve our system will be available. Barry Trotz is still out there. He's been a proven winning coach that can turn franchises around. Obviously, he said he wanted to coach, interested in coaching an original 16, but you never know. He can come back. Yeah, Patrick Wall's name out there, and his first season with the Avalanche, he really took him to that next level. So it's just you have big name coaches out there that can really turn this franchise around and really help them and reconstruct them to Verbeek's plan and have that kind of teamwork mentality and what you want from this roster. But there's no point to start that right now. There's no point just for what 3 or 4 more wins. Just it's not going to work out. Let's just ride what we have. It sucks. We're gonna have to sit there in the middle of it. That's sports, people. That's part of being a fan. Your team's not going to go 82-0. They're not going to be that best team every single season. It's just you ride with your team. You stick with them. And if not, then just jump on the bandwagon and go to Toronto or go to New Jersey or Vegas, the hot teams. But a lot of Ducks fans aren't like that, and they'll stick with their team. We just have to be patient and know that, like I said, there's light at the end of this tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, that transitions into the next segment, because we'll talk about trades, which is the most likely thing that this team is going to do. Real quick, don't forget that we are also a sponsor with Noble Ale Works. If you go there during the Ducks games, use the word DucksNPucks, you'll get a discount on draft beers there. So Noble Ale Works, check them out. We've had some watch parties there, and we will have some coming up the rest of the season. So with that, so talk about trade stuff. There's a lot of you asked questions about that. We had Adam T-Town. He asked, what players can that they move and whatnot. We've kind of talked about some of them already in the show. We talked about Klingberg. We talked about Silverberg. Some of the guys that they can move. We had JOMH1222. Talks about what's the plan regarding trading John Klingberg. We also had Summer Elder 46 on Instagram. He asked, do we think the Ducks should trade Henrique or Silverberg? And then also Phil Effin Free, who can Pat Verbeek trade number 4-2 and what for? So a lot of these questions here, you guys are asking all kinds of stuff about Ducks moving players. Some of this I'll talk about generally. Eddie and I talked about Klingberg. I'm sure he's pretty much gone. There are some teams out there struggling with defense. Maybe they'll pick him up. I mean, we got to get him healthy, got to get him back in the lineup, got to get him playing again. That's one of the biggest things with Klingberg. Silverberg had a goal recently. He's been, hasn't played as well as we would like. That's another one I would look at. Shattenkirk's another one that I would look at to trade. Eddie, you touched on Henrique earlier. That is another one as well that a team would definitely pick up. I mean, he's top 3 for the Ducks in points. Definitely somebody that could help out a contending team. And then as far as Fowler, that's the one I don't think that they would trade. And the reason why is you trade Klingberg and get somebody else in there. I don't see them trading Fowler. That's the one that I don't know that they would dangle that one out there. But these other names that are floating out there, Eddie, are the ones that I would see the Ducks at least, throwing out the fishing reel and seeing like what they could catch in terms of offers.
Definitely, and I think it's going to be really hard to trade Silverberg the way he's been playing the last few seasons in his contract. Ducks are going to have to eat up salary, but what would be the point on that? I guess it's the Ducks have enough cap space to keep him, even though I think it would work out for both parties to trade him, and I want to see Silverberg succeed. I think he could succeed elsewhere on a different team, but it's going to be too hard to move him. But yeah, Shattenkirk, Klingberg, I think they're gone for sure. There'll be people calling him. I bet you the Ducks will get calls on Fowler too, but I don't think they're going to move him. Stolars, he's not been playing well at all the last few starts that he had. I thought he would be a great trade candidate. And one thing the Ducks have to do is when a player gets hot, to capitalize on putting him out there, putting him on the block and seeing what they get for him. Don't make the mistake that Murray did when Raquel got red hot and he was getting lots of offers, but he decided to keep him. He could have picked up a huge return for him, but no, he didn't. So I just these players start getting hot, showcase them, and then trade them at the right time. Hopefully these players get hot by the deadline, because the deadline gets crazy and teams will overpay extremely. So we just wait and see for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's some of the names I would look at. You threw out Stolars too in there. That's another one that I would watch as well. So, I think that there's some of these guys. It's not like last year when they had these guys, the contracts were going to be over, trying to get all these picks and everything. But you have players on here that, yeah, their contracts are going to come up at the end. Do you want to get something for them, or just let them be a UFA and go unsigned in the summertime? And there's a lot of that. Looking at the Ducks, contracts, they got to figure all this stuff out. Couple other names that came up as far as trade targets for the Ducks. We had Chichurin came up again. I know that was the name that was out there before. He's back. He's played 7 games. He's got 3 goals. He's averaging 22 minutes of ice time. Pierre LeBrun talked about him on his podcast. Another one that the Ducks, they were connected to him in the past. I don't know if they are this season. Interesting person. That defense could help the Ducks. He's got a $4.6 million contract signed through 24-25. We talked about upgrading the defense, but Pierre LeBrun says that Arizona is looking for 2 first-round draft picks. I am really not big on that, so I don't know if Chichurun is someone that's still on the Ducks' radar. The other defenseman that Pierre LeBrun talked about is Erik Karlsson. And we talked about San Jose on the last show and Timo Meier and the issues that they have with their salary cap. They're another team that's really crunched up in numbers. Karlsson is one that has a no-movement clause. He controls his fate. 11 goals in 28 games so far, averaging over 25 minutes of ice time. They did mention Edmonton and Florida, some teams being connected to him. Obviously, he's got a big contract, $11.5 million, signed through 26-27. But these are 2 guys that are out there. One or both maybe at the trade deadline or maybe come summertime if they're not moved. But what do you think about either one of these, Eddie? Do you think the Ducks, they trade Klingberg or Shattenkirk on defensively and maybe they try to bring in one of these guys, or do you think it's too much of a stretch?
No, Chikrin's not going to happen. Those 2 first-round draft picks, it's a huge return for a player. Yes, he's still young. He has a lot of potential, and his cap hit is really friendly. But the Ducks, no, I don't want them spending 2 first-round draft picks. I think his price is so high because what the Ducks got from Lindholm last season too. That they got a huge return for Lindholm, but I don't think the Ducks pull the trigger and make this move. It's going to cost way too much, and there will be a team that will make this happen and pull the trigger on this, but I don't think the Ducks should. I think a team that will pull the trigger is going to be a contending team where their first round draft picks are going to be 15 or higher. As far as Karlsson, I doubt he wants to come to Anaheim, but his contract's the problem, and San Jose is going to have to eat a lot of it, or they're going to have to just take less from him. And he's on fire this season, just absolutely dominating the league with his play. He's going nuts. That's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. Is he an $11.5 million defenseman? Yes, right now he is, but that's just only one season after the disappointing season he's been having with San Jose. Florida's going to be hard. They have no first-round draft picks for the next 3 years, and they wagered a lot of their future on what they had and for a cup run that they didn't do anything with. I think if a trade happens with Florida, then they'll have to take his entire salary with them. But then again, they have Bobrovsky making 10.5, and then Spencer Knight's going to need another big contract. So they're just kind of in a cap crunch unless the cap significantly goes up. But I can't see that happening in Edmonton. I don't know Edmonton. He goes in that team. They're not going to do anything because for some reason Edmonton has bad luck. Another team that I've heard floating around is the Senators. Maybe a reunion with Karlsson and the Senators. He loved playing for Ottawa, so it just depends if he wants to win too. Like you said, he controls his fate, so he can go anywhere if he wants to contend for a cup or he wants to go back home where his original franchise was, where he played for. It's going to be on him, but the Sharks, it would help them to lose his contract. They already got rid of Brett Burns' contract. Another one that's hurting them is Vlasic's contract. He's not been playing up to his contract either. So it's interesting moves for the San Jose Sharks, but they're just lucky that Karlsson regained that form, is playing how he is. So they have that opportunity now to trade him. Obviously eating up salary, but they still have that time to trade him, and the time would be now. If they wait and hold on to him, it's only going to bite them in the ass, especially if he starts cooling off. I hope they do, because San Jose Sharks, screw them. I'm not trying to do anything to help them, but I mean, the time to trade him and try to find a suitor for him would be right now, because he's red hot right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, the Ducks technically they could take on his contract. They have $14.5 million in cap space now per cap friendly. There's a lot of stuff I'll talk about right now in the cap with things that are going on. It's early, obviously. We got the trade deadline, summer coming up, things are going to move around. But if the Ducks wanted to take him on, they could. But I think, like you said, part of the thing is like, is he gonna go to a rebuilding team? Probably not. Also, the Sharks and or him gonna want him to go to another team in the division? Probably not. So that's why I just don't see it happening. I think the math could work out for Anaheim. I think that they could absolutely do it, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I'm with you on Chychrun. 2 first-round draft picks. Yeah, Arizona, you know what? You guys go figure out where you're going to play next year, and I'll get back to you. Because I just don't know. 2 first-round draft picks? No. You want a first, and you want to talk about maybe a second or a third or something like that. I don't know. 2 first-round picks, it's just... Yeah, it's still a lot to ask. So, but I just mentioned those names because those are names that are floating out around there. Chychrun was one that has been connected to the Ducks. And we talk about defense. We still said watch the Pacific. There's still teams in the Pacific that are going to wheel and deal come trade deadline. But in terms of the cap, I just hit on that really, really quick here. The Ducks situation is interesting because they're going to lose some players either through trade or not re-signing, most likely at the end of the season. So they're one of the teams that have a lot of cap space. If you look at cap friendly, there's a lot of teams that are up against the cap and they're basically screwed. The Ducks are not one of them. They have a lot of room. But you have Grant at 1.5. He's going to be a UFA. I don't know if he comes back. We talked about Klingberg. If they trade him, that's $7 million. We mentioned Shattenkirk, 3.9. Kulikov, who I like, at 2.2. Moore, who's hurt, 2.7. He'll probably be done in the season. At Beaulieu, who's just under $1 million. So there's a lot of stuff there for the Ducks to play around with, coming up in the summertime. Now, of course, you got to temper expectations because then you've got Zegras, Terry, Comtois, and Drysdale, who that they've got to sign as RFAs. I would say at least 3 out of 4. Comtois, I don't know, but I mean, if they don't sign Zegras, Terry, and Drysdale, something's seriously wrong with this team. But you got to factor that in there too. But the bottom line is the Ducks will have room to do some stuff. So that's just kind of where we're at the cap now, Eddie. Just so that when people say, hey, this guy costs so much, it's far-fetched. It's not necessarily far-fetched. The Ducks could go get somebody. They have some guys on here that they may trade or not re-sign and have free cap space. But it also factors in, obviously, Terry Zegras, Comtois, Drysdale, where they're going to sign him. So just some food for thought there, Eddie.
Yeah, and with Drysdale, unfortunately, he's hurt. He's not going to play the full season, so that's going to really hurt his value. If he played a full season, I really thought his value would be increased. He'd make a lot of money. So I think with him would be a safer bet to do a bridge deal. It's not going to cost the Ducks that much. They're going to break the bank on Terry and Zegras for sure, and we had to know that. You have to retain them, sign them to long-term contracts. They're proving their worth, or who knows, maybe Verbeek might do a shorter term and see what they offer. But just players like that are special. You see what they're doing and how they're going to improve. But what you mentioned, trade or not re-sign, I'm good with all those players moving. Well, one player I wouldn't mind keeping at a decent deal to be a bottom 6 defenseman is Kulikov. I think he's been playing decent for the Ducks, and he's not as bad as... I thought he was just going to come in and just be a 7th defenseman, being scratched here and there, but he's been playing pretty well. He's not going to evaluate numbers or anything. He just does what a defenseman's supposed to do, is just defend. So I wouldn't mind bringing him back as a bottom 6 or a bottom pairing defenseman, and just let the other defenseman coming up and Drysdale just eat up all those minutes. I'm looking forward to seeing what Drysdale comes back, a healthy Drysdale does.
Yeah, absolutely. We're missing him big time on the blue line. So there's kind of your snapshot of what's going on with the Ducks and the cap. Obviously they have room; they can do some stuff, but got to temper some expectations trying to bring some of these guys back. So with that, we'll move towards the end of the show. We're going to talk a little bit about Ducks rebranding and then some league news. Another sponsor we have is Fanatics. If you check out our pinned tweet on Twitter, we have a link on there. You can go on there and get some discounts and whatnot. So we're an affiliate with them, so check them out. So another news with the Ducks, kind of not really news, but news, I guess, all about the jersey stuff, because everybody goes nuts about jerseys. And we've talked about jerseys, I think, almost every show this season. But you had... Ali Murchie, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. That might be how you pronounce it. But he talked about the Ducks rebranding. and that a team source said that it was possible it was going to happen in the next couple seasons, and that got everybody on Twitter kind of going nuts. Not really a surprise. I mean, a lot of us talked about that. I mean, Eddie and I talked about it. A lot of you out there talked about it when the reverse retro jersey was hinted at being a Mighty Ducks themed jersey, and then we kind of knew what it was beforehand, and then it came out, and we knew. So now the talk is, hey, the Ducks, they wore that jersey on this last road trip. They're wearing it on a lot of road games this year. So everybody's like, hey, is that Mighty Ducks jersey, is that going to be, the reverse retro, is that going to be the away jersey? And then, is the Mighty Ducks logo going to come back as the main jersey, like a new one, or is that orange third going to be the one, or whatnot? So a lot of talk. I mean, I guess his post kind of confirms what we've heard, but it says possible in the next couple of years. You and I have also talked about next season being the 30th year. Are they going to do a special jersey for that, like they did for the 25th year? So, I mean, it's always fun. I like talking about jerseys. Everybody knows, Eddie and I are big fans of that. Just kind of, what do you think, Eddie? You think the Ducks, put the reverse retro white one as the away jersey, and then they come up with another Mighty Ducks theme as the home? I mean, I kind of think that's what we've talked about already. I don't know. Like, what do you think? Anything change your mind, or anything new that you've heard?
Just like I mentioned in the last previous shows, I have a buddy that says he has a friend that works for the Ducks, and mentioned that this whole rebranding and they want to go back to the Mighty Ducks thing, but that's just pure speculation, not anything concrete. That one guy has been pretty spot on. He pretty much guessed all the reverse retro, so I mean, he's someone to look after and take his word for it. But I don't know what's going to happen. Next season, we're going to have a new jersey sponsor. Adidas isn't really going to renew their contract unless something significant comes up, which is unfortunate because I do like the Adidas jerseys. I'm kind of like hit and miss in this, because I do like our current home and away jerseys. I like that D, and it looks good. I don't want it to it's kind of weird, because I don't want to see that Mighty Ducks jersey every single game, get tired of it. But then again, I do want to see it. Look at Arizona. They hinted too. They posted on their Twitter before they changed their jersey that, hey fans, we're listening to you. We heard you out. And then boom, now their Kachina jerseys are their home and away. Those look great, and they look awesome. So maybe the Ducks do something like that. Maybe similar to a black version that I made myself. I wouldn't read too much into them wearing the reverse retro all road trip. I believe I asked Dan Wood this question years ago about teams doing this. The Ducks did this before, but a lot of teams will just wear all their home jerseys on a away trip just to save the cost of bringing two jerseys when they travel. I believe he answered that question for me, so I wouldn't read too much the Ducks just going with one jersey during their road trip and things like that. But who knows? Hopefully the Ducks, how bad they're playing, give us some kind of hope and help us rebuild. But then again, on the flip side, my other mind's processing, why don't we wait till we're competitive again and then just do a hell of a rebrand when the Ducks are competitive? And look what happened last time when the Ducks changed jerseys. Win the Stanley Cup, maybe that can happen again. Maybe it's our good luck charm.
That's a very good point. I didn't even think about that. You're right. They changed from the word Ducks to the letter D, right? And then end up, going and winning and all this stuff. I mean, that's true. They rebranded back then, with the word Ducks, and then switching to the D, moving away from the Mighty Ducks and whatnot. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe that could be in the future, Eddie.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I remember that the whole rebranding went from the Mighty Ducks to Anaheim Ducks, and boom, they won the cups. Maybe that's their good luck charm. And like I said, I don't want to see the beautiful jerseys they can make, the old Mighty Ducks logo and what they're going to do, just to have a losing season and seeing these jerseys just losing in and day out. Next season, for sure, the 30th, do something special for that. That'd be awesome. Don't even do anything special. Just bring back the original one. Everyone will be happy. No one will complain. You'll have that percentage of fans that will complain because they want to bitch about everything. But just do that. Be fine. Once this team gets to that competitive ways and we're really serious, boom, rebrand. Everyone, look, here we have the Mighty Ducks now. Or keep the Ducks name. Just add that nice iconic logo back in the jerseys, and everyone will be happy. And then win the Stanley Cup, and everyone will love you guys even more.
Yeah, the other thing I thought about this too is that there was a name change too, right? Because it was Mighty Ducks to Anaheim Ducks. they had, the Ducks with the Web D, the full word, right, on there, and then eventually they went to just the Web D. But I think, if they can keep Anaheim Ducks, I don't think a name change, I don't think anybody's concerned about that. I don't think they need to bring back Mighty Ducks, like the name. I think they just keep it Anaheim Ducks. But I'm really curious because I like the orange jersey with the Mighty Ducks logo. I almost like that as the home. I don't know. I mean, yeah, we talk about black all the time and all this stuff. Yeah, black's cool, whatever. But, other teams, will have different colors for their home jersey. That's not necessarily black. So, I mean, if they switched that to the home and then did some kind of third, whether it was like an upgraded D version or Anaheim Ducks version or something, I don't know. That's what I'm curious to see. But it is fun to think about this because, I mean, we know it's coming. We just don't know exactly how it's going to play out. So I do hope that they go the route of the Mighty Ducks theme logos. The name can stay Anaheim, and I'm fine with that, Eddie.
Yeah, don't bring the Mighty Ducks back. That's dead. We're not a Disney team anymore. We're not that movie. The Mighty Ducks is the iconic movies from the past. Not the terrible show that's been on. That doesn't count. That's just Disney being Disney and just putting terrible content, not knowing anything about hockey. But yeah, keep it Anaheim Ducks. Bring back the old logo if you want. If not, modify what you have right now. You want to rebrand? Do something different. Bring back that old school one that one that says like Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, the one that I like a lot. That's a good one. Bring something like that back. Well, for a third jersey, I don't want to see that all the time, but there's a lot you can do, and it's all going to depend too on like how it's going to happen with this new sponsor of jerseys. If Adidas can make it work, or if they're going to bring someone else, we got to wait and see what's that going to happen. Because if we have another sponsor, another like Nike or someone coming in to redo the jerseys, obviously they're going to redo it and have their own little flair to it, like Adidas did. So we have to wait and see how that goes. I really hope Adidas gets some kind of deal made because I really love the way the Adidas jerseys have been. I was a big fan of Reebok. Reebok did a great job. One thing I hate about the jerseys, the Fanatics jerseys, sometimes I wish they would make them a little bit more. A little more better, not so cheap. Like the Reebok had their premier jerseys, which looked nice. Only a few minor details were out from the authentic ones. I wish Fanatics would just put a little more effort. I know it's significantly cheaper, but just have like the patches and make it a little bit more stylish for fans that can't go out there and afford a $200-$300 jersey, and just make it, I guess, more appealing look wise for those fans that want to just go down to and that can afford the Fanatics jerseys.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, the other brand coming out too, switching that. We'll have to see how that factors into it too as well. And yeah, maybe they bring back that old school purple and black one that had the I think it said Anaheim Ducks on it. That one was pretty cool too. But it was different than all the other jerseys. So.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. The little script that it had, it was iconic. It was awesome. I wish I can wear it more. It's just like a 3XL. So it's hard for me to wear it, and I'll just look like it's a dress. Maybe just put a sweater on or something. But I rocked it one time during a game, and it was just way too big for me. So I'm trying to look into buying a smaller one. Just some of the prices out there are just way out of my budget right now. But hopefully, and I'm definitely not going to gain weight enough to fit that jersey. So we could scratch that idea.
And along those lines too, we've seen the Mighty Ducks jersey, like we've seen basketball players wear it, and then the New York Jets football team wore the Mighty Ducks jerseys this last weekend. They wore the old school one, with the green triangles and whatnot. Then of course they had the movie one with the green and yellow and whatnot on there as well. So it's out there. I think it's just a matter of time. I did crack up, though, Eddie, because I posted some photos from that. And, of course, everybody, our buddy, the Mighty Jerseys, and a few other people pointed out that some of the jerseys were fake jerseys. So I had to laugh at that, Eddie, because I didn't want to say it. I just made the post, said, it's great. They're wearing, Mighty Ducks jerseys. But I'm a little bit of a jersey snob, too, Eddie. And I had to laugh because the original Mighty Ducks jerseys, you could see where the purple isn't really purple. It's a lighter color, and you can kind of tell. So I just had to laugh at that because these are professional athletes, and even them, they were wearing a couple fake jerseys, Eddie.
Yeah, I was like, well, what the hell's up with that? I have no problem if people want to, but if that's their budget, that's fine. Like I've been there at a time where I just was only able to afford one jersey. And I think I got it as a gift. I think like my first 2 jerseys I ever gotten were a gift because I couldn't afford jerseys way back when I was younger. And I have a couple of those knockoff ones that were only the jerseys I was able to afford. So I'm not knocking on that. But you're a professional football team and you're rocking those. At least give them something or I don't know, but it's good to see them just representing the sport of hockey and representing the Ducks. So just except that one guy wearing the Hawks jersey, he can just go to hell.
All right, with that we'll
and that
round
was
out.
you know what, and you know what's funny, ironic too. I think that Hawks jersey was the only Adidas one that was worn too, if I'm not mistaken. If not, but he could go to hell. The Hawks, whatever. The Ducks stole the show. I think they were walking in a flying V too, right?
Yeah, and they said that they were cracking up about that too. They were saying the V was a little crooked or off, or I don't know, whatever. I was just laughing, whatever. But yeah, good to see those jerseys out there. All right, with that, we'll close out with a little bit of news around the league as we wrap the show up. We talk about Gibson and his play, and sometimes he gets testy in the net. But Eddie, what about Bennington and St. Louis here? He he hit Zucker in the face as he went by, and a little bit of chaos ensued. What did you think about this?
Bennington, he's the crybaby. I don't know if he's like a product of Jonathan Quick, just the amount of he just bitches and cries the whole time. But the thing about him, he'll go and start things, but he never wants to finish it. He'll go and pump his chest. He'll go slash players during the TV timeouts. He'll bump players. But when it comes down to it, man up and drop the mitts. If you want to just run around, running your mouth, talking shit to the bench, hitting a player in the face while he's skating by you, and they come up and challenge you, drop the gloves, take your helmet off. Ron Hextall that. Like, come on, just don't just be one of those people. Just start things and don't finish it. If you want to act bad, then play the part. If not, then shut the hell up and stop doing what you're doing and block pucks. Your own head coach talked to the media and said he wants him to focus on just doing what his job is stopping pucks, stop the antics. One day, he's going to piss off the wrong person. He's going to get his ass kicked. It's going to be all because he deserved it. And I'm looking forward to that day. And I hope and I pray and hope to God I'm at a game during the Ducks and St. Louis Blues, and he crosses that line, and Gibson just has enough and just skates over there and whoops his ass. I can tell you, I hope that day comes, and I hope I'm there at Honda Center because I will get inebriated, I will get blacked out, I will find my way home by Uber, and it'll be the best game I'll ever attend. But I really hope that would happen. But yeah, he needs to get his ass kicking. His team's not doing well; they're like up and down, and he needs to focus on doing his job as a goalie and stopping pucks, and not trying to be an enforcer or Ryan Reeves out there, because you're not doing anything to back it up.
Yeah, and on top of it, it's against the other team I like, Pittsburgh. So I'm like, really, dude? Like I was even more mad. I'm like, come on, man. Like, it's just trash. That's a trash play by him, It's just dumb. I mean, it's one thing that you got someone in your face, someone runs into you, knocks you over, whatever, but the guy's just skating around behind you and you do that. I just thought it was dumb. Another thing that was dumb is the play-by-play analyst in Boston. I guess he doesn't like Pat Maroon too much, Eddie, and decided to call him fat. I mean, like, really? Like, what's up with that, dude?
Yeah, Jack Edwards just out of nowhere just starts commenting on how he likes pizza and he's overweight and blah, blah, blah. Just, like, where did that come from? It was so stupid for him to do a play-by-play, a professional, to start demeaning a player like that. And I'm not going to say fat shaming. I'm not one of those people who are going to cry every time you make fun of someone. He's a big boy. He can take it. These players, they go back and forth all the time on the ice. But it's just, as a professional, it was really uncalled for and unprofessional of him, especially when your teeth look like you've been smoking meth since you were 4 years old. Like, those teeth are like pearly yellows. Like, I don't know why he has room to talk. But he's just, that was just made him and made the Boston organization just look like total trash and look like shit. Pat Maroon on the Spit Chicklets podcast was really pissed off and fired up, and he wanted to let emotions take over and tweet some crap out and go and pretty much pound his face in. But he took the higher road, and he used this as a cause to I guess he made over $50,000 in donations for a certain organization. I totally forgot what it is, but he kind of turned that negative into a positive. But he talked about too, it still affected him. It just like didn't understand like what went wrong and what he did to warrant that. He wasn't even doing anything. He wasn't making a dumb play. They were just playing hockey. Went on the ice. He's off the ice, and the guy is still talking about it a minute and a half later about how he's fat and stuff. It's like if you're gonna talk shit about someone, just take a look in the mirror because you need those teeth are just horribly bad. Like I don't know what you're doing to make your teeth so yellow. If you're trying to be the next Joker or something. Or like I said, maybe that's you're hitting the meth pipe too much, too long, but your brain scrambled. But yeah, just have some more professionalism. And you just made your whole organization just look like crap. But I'm glad Pat Maroon took the high road and he ended up getting and making this a lot of money for a charitable organization. So over $50,000 have been raised. So that's really good on his part.
Oh my God, dude, you got me cracking up over here with your comments, dude. I'm just laughing. Maybe we should send Edward some toothpaste and floss.
Yo, you know what, Mike, let's do it. Let's buy those dental white strips and forward it to the Bruins organization to Jack Edwards because I'm so down to do it. We'll make a video of it and post it on Ducks and Pucks. If you let me do it, I will do it. I will so do it, and I will tag Pat Maroon and be like, hey, we're giving a gift to Jack Edwards to hopefully help him out. I know it's like some people are going to be like, oh, well, you're not, you're doing the same thing he's doing. You're just calling him out, and I don't care. I'm a kind of person that I will fight evil with evil, and I'm not one of those turn the other cheek. You want to start something? I definitely will finish it, and I'm so ready to send him some Crest White strips. That's my donation to him.
Or maybe we'll send him a bottle of Listerine or something.
Oh, no, that's not going to fix those teeth. If you've seen those teeth, I've never seen that color yellow in my life. It's just, holy crap. Like, those teeth are just, maybe that's why he's mad. Like, your teeth are that yellow.
Wow. When your teeth are as yellow as your team's jersey, that's not a good thing. You know what I'm saying? You might want
to... his teeth looked like yellow baby shit. That's the best way I can describe it. Like, holy crap.
Oh, man. All right. Moving on as we wrap up this show. Wow. Let's talk about some record breakers. Ovechkin passed Gretzky for most goals on the road, Eddie.
403. And I think he's going to pass Gretzky's record for the most scores. He's going to be the best goal scorer, the most goals scored in the National Hockey League ever. And I hope this happens. It's great to witness this history. Seeing the Capitals play against the Ducks, seeing him play against the Kings. I've been to those games, watching him score goals. It's really electric. Even the man, Gretzky himself, hopes that his record gets broken. It's really a good feat for him. A little breaking news too, Mike. Something breaking news that happened today. Tage Thompson scored 5 goals in the Buffalo game today. He becomes the third American to ever do that in National Hockey League history. And I think it's been like since the 1930s since that happened. So that's another right here breaking news that just happened after this Columbus and Buffalo game.
Yeah, I think he had 3 or 4 when we started the podcast. So he's just scoring goals while we're recording.
And I didn't pick him up on fantasy. I waited that extra week and someone snagged him up, and now I'm kicking myself in the ass for that.
And another guy that can score, that set another record, Patrick Kane, right? 1,200 points. The Blackhawks, Eddie?
Yeah, third active player to record 1,200 points. That guy is just unbelievable. He's a really great player. Probably going to go down as the best U.S.-born player in National Hockey League history. His name keeps popping up in the rumor mill too. No Ducks fans, he's not going to come to the Ducks. That'd be freaking awesome if he did. I'd love that. But yeah, his name keeps popping up, and he's at the end of his contract. The Hawks are in full rebuild mode. They traded a lot of key aspects. He's mentioned too his interest in playing with DeBrincat again. So like a lot of people have been speculating, oh yeah, maybe he wants to go to the Senators, but I think he wants to win another cup. He's really competitive, and I think a lot of teams are going to be trying to bend over backwards to retain his services. I'd heard the Avalanche shoe might be interested in him. They were interested in him last season, so imagine him on the Avalanche and then making a run, especially when they get all their players back from injury. They're going to be a dangerous and deep team again. So, yeah, it's congratulations to Ovechkin, Tage Thompson, and Patrick Kane.
And also, you talked about Kane and the rumor mill. I meant to mention this in the trades up above earlier. I forgot, but Brock Bozer and Bo Horvat are 2 more also that Pierre LeBrun said to watch out of Vancouver that may be traded in the near future. So a couple other names to look at. Another interesting story that happened, I thought this was funny because a lot of people started posting about this, but in Seattle, Shane Wright got sent down on a conditioning deal to the AHL. He came back up and then scores his first goal against Montreal. You all remember the death stare that he gave Montreal at the draft, which a lot of people are posting. And it cracks me up, Eddie, that, they found that loophole, they did all that stuff, whatever. But he gets his first goal, and it's against Montreal, the team that didn't draft him. I just thought it was funny, and I saw a lot of people posting about that. I thought it was pretty hilarious.
Yes, I have to give it up to the Seattle's management on finding that loophole. I didn't know it existed until this season, that they can send him down. If he's scratched consecutively for 5 games, they can send him down to a conditioning loan for 5 games, which he had 4 goals with Coachella in those 5 games. So he got his confidence. He returned fired up against Montreal, of course, and he scores his first National Hockey League goal, up to 2 points now. I know he had his issues and he had his attitude problem in the past, but he's still a young player. I mean, we've all thought we were the gods of the world. We all thought we were the most right people in the world at 18, so we can't really judge a kid from that aspect. But I'm glad that he got those games and he got that proper development. This begs the question too. During the whole COVID stuff that was going on, they allowed these junior eligible players to play in the AHL, and it helped players like Zegras, Drysdale, and their development, and help them kind of develop even further. I think something has to be different in this league. I think it's not right to send players or have to send players back to juniors when they're too good for juniors. Why not let these players develop properly in the American Hockey League? I think you'll see faster results. You'll see players that can develop to something greater. So sending them back to junior where they're not playing against men, they're playing against boys. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think something has to change. This league wants to change all the crap they want to do. They want to jump in political aspects. They want to jump in here and change the hitting and the fighting. Why not change something significant that's going to help these players develop properly and work out something with the juniors and the rules and get these players, if they're eligible enough, to have exceptional status to play in the AHL and let them develop properly. It shouldn't have to find this loophole. But I'm glad that Seattle found this loophole, so maybe teams can start following the footsteps and maybe change will happen. Hopefully the Ducks follow in the footsteps of some of their players that are junior eligible players that have to be sent down. Scratch them. I know it's going to be tough watching them, having to watch the team on the bench and not play. But yeah, get in those games, send them down to the AHL and get them a little taste of it. So I hope something in the near future changes, but I doubt it because significant change and bringing something better to the NHL is not their goal. Just making stupid ass changes about fighting and unsportsmanlike conduct and game misconduct for fighting and instigators and keeping your helmets on and warm-ups are more important than actually development in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like that whole thing about, with the stuff that they got going on with Canada and how they have to go to the juniors depending on the age and all the other stuff that factors into that. I'm not really a big fan of that. Like, just that if the team drafts a player, they should be able to send him down where they want to send him down. If they want to send him to juniors, send him to juniors. If they want to send him to AHL, send him to AHL. I think that the team should be allowed to decide that. I don't like these restrictions with these Canadian-based junior leagues. I don't know. Some kind of agreement that the NHL needs to figure out with them. But like you said, Eddie, I mean, I don't know, unless Seattle maybe doing their thing has got them going, well, crap, teams are going to exploit this. But then what they'll probably do next year is say, oh, you can't do that instead.
Yep. Yep, change the rule.
Yeah, they might say, oh, that's a loophole. We got to close that one up too. So, I mean, I don't know. But I just was laughing. I thought it was funny that he scored against Montreal and then just people posting his face at the draft. I was just laughing. I thought it was funny. But
good for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for him. He'll be playing in the World Juniors too for Canada coming up, so they're gonna just have him so he can stay up with the team while he's being on loan to the World Juniors. So he'll be up for a while with the team, but it just he's too good to play in juniors, but he's not eligible to be consistent to play in the AHL. So it's just one of those things where it's unfortunate for the kid because you're going to send him down to play below his skill level and develop bad habits and get used to playing back to that skill level and not having properly developed. I just think it's bullcrap, and I think these players deserve better. And look what happened to a lot of players that during the whole COVID thing where they allowed them to play because the juniors league was shut down. They allowed them to play in the AHL, and it paid dividends for a lot of teams, including the Ducks.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing I forgot to mention in the show too about World Juniors is don't forget the Ducks. They have Goucher, Hines, and Zellweger, they're all going to go play for Team Canada in the World Juniors. And then Pasterjob, I don't know why he didn't make it for Team USA, even though he's like one of the leading scorers. But I don't know. So, but you got 3 of the Ducks players that got invited to Team Canada for the juniors. So just a little side note there. Didn't mention it earlier. And I guess the only other last news really is the red hot, pun intended, Devils. 13 wins in the month of November, which I guess that was an NHL record, Eddie.
Yeah, you know what? They were a bottom feeder team. They tried to accelerate the rebuild, and it kind of backfired on them. But they trusted the process, and they rebuilt properly, and they're just now everything's clicking for them. They're getting good goaltending. That Akiri Schmid, he hasn't lost a game. Vanacek has been playing lights out for them, and they're just since Miles Wood called them out, they're just turned their whole organization around. And I'm looking forward to the Ducks doing this. Looking forward to us talking in the podcast, saying, "Hey, remember that one season where the Ducks were just horrible?" So just, good for them. Good for them. Good for their fans. I know their fans were struggling. They were kind of shitbags trying to fire the coach the second game of the season, but they said sorry and a good chant, and it's all fun and games, and they're looking really dangerous. And it just seems like they're not going to stop. They're going to continue being red hot, and good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I look at that. The reason why I think it's kind of cool that we end on that is because I look at what they're doing. And looking at the Ducks and hoping that that's where they'll be. Obviously not this season, but in the next year or two. So a little inspiration. I mean, it's the Devils. It's Eastern Conference team, not one that really follow or are a big fan of. But I'm just saying that's an example of a team that had a lot going wrong, and now all of a sudden things are going right. So something to look forward to with the Ducks and whatnot. But I crack up, Eddie. The last show we had was just under 2 hours, and so is this one. I was looking at the shows, and the last one we had that was really long was the beginning of 2022. So, most of these shows we try to keep it an hour 15, but man, there's always plenty of stuff to talk about, Eddie, even with the Ducks struggles and whatnot.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know what? As a fan of podcasts too, and I love listening to podcasts. I listen. I'm trying to actually I'm trying to look for some movie podcasts to listen to too, just kind of like broaden my horizon. Especially at work, I do a lot of driving and supervising at work, and I'm not really social at work. I just go there for a reason, and I go to their work. So it's like I love listening to the podcast, and the longer they are, the better. It makes work go by faster. So I'm sure a lot of you are appreciative of how long they are. And if you guys aren't, we apologize, but there's a lot to talk about, and we love talking about hockey, and we're not going to just cap a show off. We're just going to keep talking until we have conversations to talk about. So I appreciate you guys following along, listening, and I hope we're whenever you're listening to traffic in your car or while you're working, hopefully just listening to us talk about the Ducks makes your day go by a little faster and better.
Yeah, absolutely, and we appreciate all the support. And if you want to support us even more, you can go on patreon.com/DucksNPucks. Join on there. We give away different tickets, and you can get T-shirts and whatnot on there. You can join our email list too, and you go look at our articles at the top. There's an email list. Punch your email in there; it'll send you stuff. We won't blow you up. I only send a couple emails a month. I don't get too crazy. And check out our Instagram. We gave away a autographed Derek Grant puck. Now we're giving away a autographed Derek Grant replica jersey. So check it out on there. We're doing a lot of giveaways. Probably do even more, especially Christmas and the holidays coming up and whatnot. So thank you for the support. We'll be back next week, and let's go Ducks.